Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I know I haven't been posting for a while, so thank you to those who've stuck around, because in today's video I am going to be reviewing the Miss Universe Philippines 2025 competition. What an outstanding performance the ladies gave at this incredible competition. I wish I could have been there in the audience, but I guess watching on YouTube is not a bad second best. Without further ado, I am going to jump straight into giving my review of the ladies in the top 24 fashion round segment, which included a little bit of a bio for each of the contestants. I've got my notes with me to make this process a lot faster, so apologies for looking down. First, I'm going to start with Baguio City, and apologies if I do not get the pronunciation right, I'm so sorry. So I thought that Baguio City had great eye contact. She had quite like a sort of like flirty sort of look in her eye. She played it up to the audience. She was good at looking at the camera. I thought she was really working those camera angles. And I thought she had an overall fun vibe. I think she had really nice poses and a nice walk, and overall it was a solid performance. Next we have Pasay City. I thought that the walk was a little bit flat. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more energy and a bit more of a fierce look in her eyes and in her facial expressions, but overall it was a good walk. It just wasn't a complete standout for me in this particular round. Next we have Nueva Ecija. I thought she was very beautiful and she has a very strong jawline. She's very beautiful, but I think she had a slight mishap at the very beginning of her routine perhaps. And overall, I thought that some of her posing just seemed a little bit robotic and not very fluid. I think that there's a little bit of room for improvement in her performance, but I'm excited to see how she goes in the next round. Next, we have Iligan City. I thought she had a really nice strut. Like, her walk was really strong. She had a bit of a sassy walk. I really liked that. She had this kind of like smirk. It wasn't like a smile. It was more like a cheeky smirk. I was a little on the fence, but I think I liked it. And I thought she had great hip movement, especially given the dress was like a solid dress without a split. So I think that it would have been quite difficult to look really nice with your body in a dress that sort of covers everything up. Next we have Taguig City. I thought Taguig City was absolutely stunning. I loved how she had her hair up and it cascaded around her. Her hair was magnificent. She had a beautiful smile. She had this really warm energy, and I thought that she had a great walk, lovely pose, and overall I thought it was a great performance. Oh, but one thing I will say is that perhaps the hair flick at the end of the stage could have been a little bit better, but overall it was a great performance. Next we have Cebu City. I thought that there might have been a sticker on her dress, because I did notice there was something on her dress when she came out, but it wasn't really a big deal. It didn't really detract from her performance, and overall it was a great performance. So when Cebu City came out, I thought that she had a great, really strong walk. She looked beautiful. She had a great smile. Next we have Occidental Mindoro. Occidental Mindoro really caught my attention. I really liked her opening pose. She did a great opening turn and she had a really cool facial expression, very eye-catching. She had control, she had strong poses, she looked fierce, and I thought she gave a fantastic performance in such a short time period. Next we have Benguet. Benguet looked very sweet, she looked happy. I did think that she actually looked a little bit too relaxed though when she was walking down the stage. Her arms seemed to go a little bit all over the place, so that's something that, you know, should be tidied up in the next couple of rounds. But overall, I thought she did a good job. Next we have Davao. I thought that she was absolutely gorgeous, but I was a little bit on the fence with the hair flick. I thought that there was a little bit of Miss Grand coming through in her routine, but I thought she had a good command of the stage and I think I'd advance her. Next we have Tarlac Province. I thought she did a good job. All I would say is that I think she needed to speed it up just a little bit more, because I think she was walking a little bit slowly. Next we have Laguna. I thought that she was very beautiful. I thought that when she was on stage though, she could have brought a little bit more energy and just had a bit more of a fierce look about her. I think it was a little bit too demure and not really the kind of impression you want to make in front of the judges. Next we have Boho. I thought she was absolutely gorgeous. She had a great walk, she had great poses. Next we have Malay Aklan. I thought she was gorgeous. I thought that sort of her walk and posing was very simple, but it was very well executed. I will say that I think she could have brought a little bit more energy, but I felt like that with all of the contestants actually for this particular segment. So maybe they're all holding back just a little bit because he wasn't, you know, like the swimwear round. I'm not actually 100% sure. Next we have Ifugao. I thought that she looked very sweet. I thought that she had a really nice warm energy. She was absolutely beautiful and her hair was 10 out of 10. Next we have Muntinlupa, who also happens to be a mother, which I thought was really special to see in the Miss Philippines competition. Muntinlupa had a great smile. I thought that she had a very nice walk. I thought her pose was simple but elegant. It was a good first impression. Next we had Oriental Mindoro. I thought she had a strong walk. She was beautiful. She had a sort of bubbly energy about her. I liked her pose, and overall she was a little bit of a standout for me. Next we had Isabella. I thought that she was absolutely gorgeous. I don't think I could really fault that time that she had on stage. She did an opening spin followed by a flawless end pose. She had a beautiful smile. I liked her facial expressions. It was pretty flawless. Next we had Quezon Province. Quezon Province had a flawless walk, which obviously you wouldn't expect anything less. She was very confident. She had a nice smile. She had a lovely walk. I liked her posing. I actually would have liked a bit more of a fierceness to her facial expressions in this section, but I'm sure she was just warming up. Next we had Manila. Manila looked absolutely gorgeous, but something that distracted me was when she sort of bit her lip, I think, and I don't think it was on purpose. It was sort of like that sort of thing. I don't know how to describe that. I think it was just a mistake, something she did when she was nervous. That said, overall, I thought she gave a good performance on stage, and this was just a very early part of the competition. Next, we had Carino. I thought Carino had such a warm smile. She seemed really authentic and happy to be there, like someone who looks very friendly. I will say she had a slightly weak and shaky start, but she seemed to sort of recover towards the end. Next we had Sultan Kudarat, who honestly was my personal favorite throughout the competition. She really caught my attention from the moment she stepped on stage. She had 10 out of 10 facial expressions. She was absolutely stunning. She had a beautiful walk, strong poses. She had this fierceness in her eye. 10 out of 10 performance. Next we had Siniloan Laguna. I thought that she had an elegant walk, she had strong poses, and gave a very solid performance. Next we had Lucena City. I thought she had very fierce facial expressions, which I love. Hair was 10 out of 10, but I would have liked to see a little bit more smiling expressions on her face. I think that it sort of helps to sort of bring the audience in a little bit more. I think there was a moment where she looked like she did try to smile, but I think she must have been so nervous that when she tried to smile, it sort of looked like she couldn't. So maybe she needs to practice relaxing before stepping out into the spotlight. Next we had Bulacan, and I loved how Bulacan really took her time in that opening pose, kind of like caught my attention. Instead of her rushing into it, she really took her time and made me stop and take notice of her as well. She also did an extra spin before she started walking, which I don't think any of the other contestants did. So that was a very big tick from me. It really made her stand out to me. I do think that her end posing needed a little bit of extra work, but overall I thought that she did a fantastic job. I'm going to share my personal favorites from the fashion showcase round, and they were Sultan Kudarat, Quezon Province, Isabella, Oriental Mindoro, and Occidental Mindoro. Let me know who your favorites were from the fashion showcase. But now I'm going to jump straight into the swimwear round. Now we do have a lot of contestants to get through, so I'm going to make this very quick. First we had Baguio City. I thought that she had a flawless opening. I loved her half spin turn, which I noticed actually all of the contestants basically did, but she had great execution. I loved her poses, they were very strong, and she brought great energy to the stage. Next we had Pasay. I thought that Pasay had a really nice opening turn, but I do think she lost a little bit of momentum though as she was making her way down to do her final pose. Next we have Nueva Esija. I thought that she had a nice opening spin, but when she started to walk down the stage, I felt like she was looking around for the cameras and she couldn't locate them, so she looked a little bit awkward just for a few seconds until she decided to just focus on looking ahead. She had a very nice smile. I did think she was a little bit slow and I would have liked to have sped up her walk and posing a little bit, but I loved her half turn look back at the audience. Like that final pose she did, that was fantastic. Iligan City had a flawless opening. Honestly, very, very talented. She had great spin and face coordination. I love it when a contestant can look down the camera, do a spin and come out, connect with the camera and have that sort of range of emotions on their face. She did this flawlessly and is an absolute expert at what she does. Also loved her strong end posing. Next we have Taguig. I felt like when she came out on stage, it looked like she was actually enjoying herself. She seemed relaxed, she seemed happy, but she still had a really strong walk. She blew a kiss at the camera, she held hands with the singer who was on stage. She really worked the stage and all the elements, and she was very eye-catching. She also had amazing end poses, and she would definitely get a vote to go into the next round from me. Next we had Cebu City. I found it interesting that when she was walking down the runway, she had great energy and she had this like relaxed kind of fun-loving attitude, but I found it not random, but she did kind of like rock out and, you know, shake her head to the song, which I know contestants do that, but it reminds me, I think, of Victoria's Secret model. Not that that's a terrible thing, audience, I think they loved it. I'm sure the singer liked it, so I don't know. I was a little on the fence with that, but she had a great walk. I really liked her end poses and she gave a great performance. So I think that she was able to carry that kind of quirky action. But yeah, she was loving the stage. Next we had Occidental Mindoro. I really enjoyed her opening spin and like the hair flick. I thought that was very masterful. And then she walked into this really cool like 1.5, like it was almost like two spins. It was like this really cool, I mean, I'll show you on the screen because it's hard to describe, especially this time of night, but I loved her routine. Like it was so simple, but it was well executed. I thought the spins were executed perfectly. I love the way her hair like swished around. She had this kind of fierce energy about her, and I love that on stage because it's kind of exciting as an audience member to watch. I thought she was an absolute standout. Next we have Banget. She had a very fierce opening and half turn, which I thought was fantastic for the stage. I thought that her opening was fierce and she brought great energy, but one of the things that I can't really comment on is the rest of her performance because the camera angles were not ideal. I couldn't really see her end posing, so I can't really comment much more. Next we have Davao. I thought that she was a little bit off balance after her opening spin turn, but she seemed to recover towards the end. Next we had Muntinlupa. She missed her first opportunity for a pose, but I think she kind of recovered because she had a strong walk, and when she got to the end of the stage, she had really strong end poses. She had a great figure, and when she smiles, it just sort of like, I felt like it lit up the audience. I think next we had Oriental Mindoro. Again, she was fierce, she had a great smile, loved the hair flick, and I thought she had superb end posing. Next we have Isabella, and I love that at the first opportunity she had to pose, she took her time. A lot of the other contestants just did like a half spin turn. She actually stopped and posed, and that made me take notice of her. And I thought, who is this? So that's a good tip, ladies, if you're in the pageant world. Take your time, have that moment to look at the audience and the judges and say, I am here, I have arrived, because that's definitely the energy she was giving. I thought that she had a very strong walk, she was stunning, and again, she delivered and executed super strong poses at the end of the stage. I would definitely have progressed her to top 12. Next we have Quezon Province. I absolutely loved how her first spin turn, she like stepped out of it and it was very Catcher in a Grey style. I'll have to like compare them on the screen, and I heard the crowd go wild when she stepped out of that spin turn. So well done, very well executed. She had a great smile, she had a bouncy walk, great energy, and of course, she absolutely nailed it at the end of the stage. Next we had Manila. I thought that she had a great smile. She maintained fantastic eye contact with the cameras, which is a big plus. My only comment was that I think she should have held her poses slightly longer. They were strong, but she kind of stepped out of them just a little bit too soon. Next we had Carino. I think that she also missed that opportunity for that first pose, and she just sort of kept walking down the stage. She had a very sweet smile. She looked very genuine, very happy. She did have nice poses, but I did put in my notes that I thought she should have been a bit stronger with her posing, or just a bit sharper in terms of like the body angles. Next we had Sultan Kudarat. She actually also missed the opportunity for the first pose, which I was a little bit surprised at. But then she winked at the camera and she was very strong. Like her walk was powerful. You could just feel how confident she was walking down the stage. And I loved her dramatic pose where she like looked back over her shoulder at the audience, and she just had this like amazing look in her eye, and I was like, wow, like if you did not make top 5, I would be like so surprised. Next we had Siniloan Laguna. I really enjoyed how she timed her dramatic opening pose like to the music with her leg. I was like, okay, someone is an expert here. I thought she had an awesome walk. She was very fierce. It was a flawless performance. Next we had Luciana. All I'll really say is that I was not a big fan of the 3 really slow steps she took at the beginning of her walk. I know sometimes contestants in Miss Grand, sometimes they'll like slow down and then, you know, they'll walk a bit more quickly, but I don't think it worked at that spot in her routine, and I think that might have held her back a bit. Next we had Bulacan. I thought she had a really fun energy that really came through. She had a really nice smile, she had great eye contact. I really liked her strut. Like she had quite a good like strong kind of sassy walk down the runway. I thought that her end posing was really sharp, really strong. But I will say that her very, very last pose with the hair flick, I think that that needed to be refined a little bit, and that's just like a note for next time. And that concludes the swimwear round. And now it's time to look at who made it to the top 12. So, progressing to the top 12 was Sultan Kudarat. Yes, she was my favorite. Carino, Pasay, Quezon Province, Baguio, Taguig, Laguna, Muntinlupa, Bohol, Cebu City, Iligan City, and Siniloan Laguna. Now it's time for the evening wear round. So the evening wear round was kicked off by none other than Sultan Kudarat, and wow, did she look absolutely beautiful in a beautiful, like a silver sort of bluey gown, and it had a beautiful blue cape. She also had a red lip, which is not that common, I would say, at a pageant, but it was such a good choice for her. It looked so dramatic and Hollywood and beautiful. It was a great choice. I really, really liked her styling. She had really fierce expressions, like from serious to smiley. She had great facial transitions throughout the entire time she was on stage. She did a great spin with her cape, a lovely smile, and honestly, I thought it was a 10 out of 10 performance. Next, we had Carino, who was wearing a beautiful white and gold gown. Now, I don't think her gown stood out that much because unfortunately for her, the backdrop was also gold, which meant that there wasn't really that contrast, and that's something that contestants don't usually know before they get there on the night. I don't think this was the strongest performance we saw in the evening wear round. She didn't make any mistakes or anything, but I think that she could have brought like a bit more drama and just maybe some stronger posing. Next we had Pasay. Pasay, in my notes, I had that she was elegant, she had a lovely smile, she was wearing a beautiful silver dress and had a lovely necklace that she was wearing with the dress. I've actually noticed that a lot of contestants now are wearing a bit of jewelry with their dresses, and I actually really like it if it's done well. I also noticed that she had matching silver eyeshadow, which I really liked. But overall, I don't know if this was the strongest performance for me. I would have loved just some sharper posing, maybe just a bit more of a change up with the facial expressions. I think that could have pushed her over the line, perhaps. But still, it was a lovely performance. Next, we had Quezon Province. Now, Quezon Province came out wearing a beautiful, like pinky purpley gown. She had her hair in a bun. She looked absolutely stunning. Unfortunately, she did have a trip when going down the stairs, and honestly, I think pageants need to stop including stairs as part of the stage routine because it is a hazard walking in heels, especially when the girls are trying to not look down. Anyway, she recovered, she got up, she looked very graceful. She continued to do her stage routine like nothing had happened, like a true professional, and we know she won. So, you know, obviously it doesn't matter if you fall down, ladies. If you fall down, it's not about falling down, it's about how you get back up. And I really liked, again, I feel like consistently, the last look she gave the audience, like over her shoulder before she walked off stage, it just had this like, I've won, like I am coming for the crown. Like she had this fierce like smiles, and I loved it. Next we had Baguio City, and I absolutely loved this gown choice for her. She was wearing a beautiful goldy orangey kind of colored gown with bits that were coming off her shoulders. I just thought it suited her so nicely. I liked that she was wearing her hair up for a change. I thought she had very beautiful, like soft expressions on stage, and she had a beautiful final pose. Next we had Taguig, who came out wearing a beautiful gold gown. It was quite a unique design. It was kind of like a bodice that flowed out and had these kind of longer strips of a gold sort of material, almost kind of reminded me of like a Greek goddess vibe, sort of. She kept the same hair from previous rounds of competition, but she looked absolutely gorgeous. I don't think she needed to change the hair. I think it was a good decision just to keep with that lovely hairstyle. Definitely suited her. One thing I will say though is that she seemed to keep her hands on her hips the entire time she was on stage, and I think I would have liked to have seen her change it up at some point because it almost looked a bit forced and a bit stiff, whereas I feel like I like it when contestants, they maybe bring the arms up and they walk for a little while with their hands on their hips, but then they might drop one arm or both. But overall though, she had great facial expressions, great eye contact with the camera, and she was in my top picks. Next we have Laguna. I thought that the white dress that she was wearing looked amazing on stage. It just stood out so much. It was a really like bright white, and it looked very angelic on stage. All I'll say though is that while I thought her walk was great, I didn't think her final end pose was that strong, and probably not strong enough to convince the judges to progress her to the next round, but I still thought she gave a great performance. Next we had Muntinlupa. She came out wearing a beautiful purple, more fitted gown with like a nice sort of beaded fringing. I thought it was very fun. I liked seeing her hair up in a bun. I thought that looked very elegant for the evening gown round. She was giving very fierce facial expressions as she was coming down the runway. I really liked the dramatic turn and pose that she did, and I loved it when she smiled. It felt like she would start with a more fierce look, and then sort of towards the end, that's when she'd erupt into a smile. She did a great job, and I was rooting for her because she's a mum, and I thought it would be so cool if a mum won a Miss Universe competition. But yes, overall I thought she did a fantastic job on stage. Next we had Bahol, who had a lovely, like a sort of like a muted gold or like a pale yellow colored gown, and it was like fitted and beaded and very beautiful and very much like accentuated like her waist. I thought that she had a very nice walk with, you know, great hip movement, elegant walk around the stage, had a wonderful end pose, and she maintained great eye contact. Next we have Cebu City, and wow, I loved her silver gown. She looked absolutely stunning. When she was coming down the stage, she smiled, she sort of laughed. Again, very relaxed, obviously enjoying being on stage. And I thought she had a very elegant end pose and gave a wonderful performance. Next we had Iligan City. Now, I wasn't really sold on her opening pose because she started looking up, but I think she spent too much time looking up before she sort of lowered her head, and something just, I don't know, I don't think it really worked for me. I know sometimes, I think it looks better when you're not facing the crowd, and you know, girls sometimes they'll be faced the other way and they'll sort of, you know, do a dramatic reveal and then turn around. But I think because she was facing the crowd, was sort of like looking up at the roof, smiling and slowly looking down. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being pedantic, I'm not sure, but I wasn't the biggest fan. Now, she had a stunning gown. I really liked the long sleeved high neck look with the amazing intricate beading. I thought it was very beautiful, and I thought she had a nice walk, but I think the cape she was carrying was so heavy, or it looked heavy, because it looked like she could really barely move, and I think that really held her back. Felt like she looked kind of awkward just holding this big cape pretty much the whole time. I think it's better for contestants to wear something that they can take off and reveal halfway through, but she just was carrying this cape the whole time, and I think that prevented her from, you know, doing more dramatic posing. I think it kind of held her back a little bit. Next we had Cindy Lohan Laguna. Cindy Lohan Laguna, she actually dropped her cape before descending down the stairs, which maybe that's a good idea because, I mean, I guess she couldn't have left it on the stage. So if she wasn't planning on picking it back up and taking it with her, I guess that's what you'd have to do. Now, her evening gown was next level gorgeous. It was absolutely stunning. I've grown very fond of the gowns that have like a sort of short sleeve, but they have such a beautiful intricate bodice. It reminds me of something that a princess would wear. I thought she looked incredible. She had a great smile. I thought that her walk was very elegant, and I loved her end pose and the way that she used her arms. It just had a really nice dramatic feel to it and really caught my attention. Following the evening way around, it was then time for the top 6 announcement. So progressing to top 6 was Sultan Kudarat, Cindy Lohan Laguna, Muntinlupa, Taguig, Cebu City, and of course, Quezon Province. It was then time for one of the most challenging parts of the competition, which is the on-stage question and answer. First up was Sultan Kudarat, and the question asked was, the national elections are in a week's time. Our national hero, Jose Hissa, wrote that the youth is the hope of the fatherland. How can our young people play an important role in our election? And in her answer, the main thing that, you know, I took away from her answer was that she said that she would like to encourage our youth to be wise when selecting our leaders. That was the main piece that I took away from her answer. I don't think she answered the question like 100%, but I still think that what she said was, I guess, answering one of the most important parts of the question, and she made a really good point. So I thought that wasn't a bad answer. Next we had Cindy Lohan Laguna. Cindy Lohan Laguna's question was, if you were to be the governor or the mayor of the local government you're representing now, what would be the single most significant project that you would wish to accomplish and why? And the main thing, again, I took out of her answer was education, and that she would like to promote education among the genders because it opens up the door to opportunity. So I think that her most significant project would be, I guess, opening doors to opportunities for young people, or promoting education, you know, to all genders, to men and women. So it was a bit of a shorter answer. I'm not sure if she answered the question 100%, but still she made some good points. Next we had Muntinlupa, whose question was, on May 12, 2025, our general election will be held and we will be choosing our leaders. In your opinion, what is the most essential quality that we should look for in leaders? Why? And what I got out of her answer, and I actually thought that truly this was one of the best answers that I heard on this stage. And Muntinlupa said, someone who has integrity, someone who puts people's welfare first before their own political wants and own needs. And I thought that was actually quite honest. It was deep, it was truthful, it was to the point, and she answered the question. So to me, that's a 10 out of 10 answer. I don't think she could have done any better, and I was very impressed with her answer on stage. Next we had Taguig, whose question was, women in Philippine politics are still a minority, and here in Miss Universe Philippines, we talk about women empowerment. How will you help empower women and encourage them to participate in politics? And as part of her answer, she said that women today deserve a seat at the table. And she mentioned that we as women are on par with men and that we are a force in the universe. Now, I liked her answer, but she didn't really answer the question, which is a pet peeve of mine. I think that, I know it's hard on stage to answer questions under all that pressure, but I think that something to remember is to try and answer the question and not just say things maybe we've practiced and we've rehearsed, because while she was saying powerful things and they were true, a judge is going to be assessing whether you've answered the question well or not, and I don't think she's answered the question, because the question was, how will you help empower women? And she's just said that, you know, women deserve a seat at the table and that we're the same as men, but she hasn't mentioned anything about how she'll help women enter politics. So that's something to remember when you're answering pageant question, is to address the how. Next we had Cebu City, whose question was, just like our public officials, a beauty queen is a public figure whose life is under constant scrutiny. As a beauty queen, how do you maintain your authenticity amidst expectations of the public? And something I took out of Cebu City's answer was that the most important thing is the posture of your heart. She asked the audience, am I putting out the best version of myself and impacting people positively? And she was kind of talking about how we should all be making a positive impact, otherwise what's the point? And she made some great points. I don't think she answered the question properly. And then last but not least, we had Quezon Province, whose question was, they say that a good leader leads by example. Tell us about one event in your life when you led by example and the impact it made. I think that's actually one of the toughest questions that were asked on stage, but she gave a great answer and she really thought on her feet. I'm not surprised she won. Quezon Province answered, I fell a while ago on stage. And then she went on to say that whenever she falls in life, she always makes sure that she comes back stronger. Quezon Province said, last year I was here on this stage, and for the second time this year, I am here putting everything on the stage to be Miss Universe Philippines, because this is my and my grandmother's shared dream. And she passed away early this year, and this is my ode to her. Perfect answer. Absolutely perfect. Amazing. Then that concluded all rounds of competition, and it was time to find out who would be taking the crown of Miss Universe Philippines. And as we all know, Miss Universe Philippines 2025 is Quezon Province. Well done to Quezon Province. I thought she did a fantastic job, and she is a reminder to never give up on your dreams. Just because you don't succeed your first try doesn't mean you shouldn't try again and again and again. Now, something I'd like to note is that after I watched the YouTube video, I was a bit surprised that they didn't announce who was, fourth runner-up, third runner-up, and so forth. So I had to actually do some digging, and I found out that first runner-up was Muntinlupa, second runner-up was Sini Loan. Something I found very interesting is that first runner-up, was the first runner-up, and second runner-up was second runner-up. But for some reason, it was third, fourth, and fifth runner-up who were then crowned to represent the Philippines at 3 different pageants, including Miss Cosmo, Miss Supranational, and Miss Eco. And I don't know about you, but if I was first runner-up, I wouldn't mind being crowned Miss Cosmo. But I suppose the reason they can't do that is because if for whatever reason Miss Universe Philippines has to hand over the crown, they have to have a first and probably a second runner-up in case that ever happens. And as we've seen recently with Miss Grand International has recently stepped away from the crown, and now first runner-up at the International Miss Grand pageant will be stepping up to take the crown. So it does happen. So actually, now that I've said that out loud, this all makes sense. So anyway, I will let you know that Sultan Kudarat, my favorite of the competition, was crowned as Miss Cosmo Philippines, and I'm sure she would do a fantastic job at Miss Cosmo. I am wishing her all the best. Now, Taguig was crowned as Miss Supranational Philippines. I also think she will do a great job at Supranational. I can't wait to watch her journey. And last but not least, Cebu City was crowned as Miss Eco International. Again, I'm so glad that she was able to walk away with the crown herself. And congratulations to all of the women who competed in the Miss Universe Philippines 2025 competition. It is a huge job to represent one's city and one's province and oneself on the national stage, and also to be watched by millions of viewers on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you have been enjoying this channel. I am going to be posting more regularly, so thank you so much for sticking around, and I hope to see you next time. Oh, and before I forget, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, and if there is a particular pageant that you would like me to review, please comment it down below, and I will add it to my list of pageants to review over the next couple of weeks. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.